Professor Manjit?
Yes.
Yes, we can begin now with the session 2. Sorry, breakout session 2.
Right. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay.
Good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the AicE-Bs seminar conference in Marrakech. We are going to start the breakout session number 2. And for this session, we have 7 presenters. The time allocated for each presenter is about approximately 20 minutes. And each presenter can use about 12 to 15 minutes for the presentation, followed by 5 minutes to 5 to 7 minutes of discussion. We have 7 presenters, like I said, and the first presenter this evening is, by Rohana Ga, Junaina Junit, Hasni Abdullah, and Mohammed Khalik. They're going to talk to us about inclusive entrepreneurship model for person with disabilities, a critical reflection. Rohana, please start.
Assalamualaikum and very good afternoon. Thank you, Session Chair, for the introduction. For this presentation, I'm going to present a paper entitled An Entrepreneurship Model for Person with Disability with a Critical Reflection. So this paper actually is a joint contribution by myself, Junaina Junit, Hasni Abdullah, and Mohammed. For the information, this research is supported by the Ministry of Higher Education. For the introduction, okay, a person with disability are one of the marginalized communities that struggle economically and socially. And most of persons with disability in Malaysia live below the poverty line, and most of them experience adverse socio-economic outcomes, less education, poorer health outcome, and lower employment levels and higher poverty rates. And in Malaysia, because we are moving toward inclusive socio-economic for all, so therefore this research demand special attention for person with disability. So entrepreneurship for PWs is to lead meaningful and independent life, however they are struggling in their business journey. So this is the issues. Most PWDs struggle to get a job and perform the required tasks with the right attitude and skills. Not many people are actually willing to hire PWDs, and yet they are struggling to keep their job, handle internal factors including lack of self-confidence, low self-esteem, and inability to work. And it is important actually to understand as well, most of PWDs, they possess this disability due to the accident, not because of birth. So they not only have to go through the rehabilitation for their physical betterment, but they're also struggling psychologically. So therefore, we are looking into inclusive entrepreneurship is an alternative to address these marginalized communities. So beside social perception, psychological issues is another important issues faced by PWDs. So this paper investigates factors of the inclusive entrepreneurship model for PWDs through their reflection. So in Malaysia, there are almost about 581,000 persons with disability registered with Department of Social Welfare. For your information, not all PWDs willing to be registered as disabled because they do not want actually to accept the negative perception of the community. And only 2.4% of these PWDs took part in several business initiatives by the government. So over here you can see that most of PWDs they having physical disabilities, and others disabilities contribute a certain amount of percentage. In terms of the social entrepreneurship theory, most of the theory highlight that PWDs only need to tackle social network, environment, ethnic identification, and population ecology. But this theory do not address psychological issues. For example, in terms of self-esteem, self-confidence, anxiety, self-acceptance, and depression. And not only PWDs have to accept their disability and for them actually to acknowledge their loss, but they also having issues internally. So for the PWDs, their disability acceptance is very important to help them actually to move forward. So study has shown that 61.5% PWDs suffer economical inferior, and another 34.8% suffer social discrimination. So in this study, we use a qualitative approach of focus group, semi-structured interview. So the audio and video recording were transcribed verbatim. Data was recorded, categorized, and themed according to the thematic analysis. So we conducted focus group session with 10 PWDs who were selected based on their entrepreneurial experience. So most of these participants, I would say that majority, they are not born as disabled, but they get the status of disabled due to the accident. So these are the themes that we focus: self-empowerment and resilience, which is focused on psychology. And we managed actually to categorize and actually to pick up some of the important points from the research. It shows that these PWDs, they are struggling with their self-confidence, with their self-esteem, and they are pushing, they are motivating themselves. And being resilient is crucial, because a lot of PWDs along the way, they actually give up to move forward. And they're also having issues relating to social acceptance. Even though Malaysian has been more receptive toward PWDs, but the negative perception and treatment still lingered in the society. So a lot of these PWDs experience social stigma, because some of the statement they mentioned that the moment people saw me in the wheelchair, their treatment was different. Then some of them actually lost the opportunity to get some of the entrepreneurship project, because they expect that PWDs are supposed to compete with able people. So this is the issues. Young PWDs are still concerned in mingling in the public or the society, because they are very sensitive. With the emerging of social media, not only affect our young people, but it also affect our young disabled. So these are some of the main issues that we managed actually to extract from this focus group. Some of the important issues relating to psychology, psychological issues are self-esteem, motivation, resilience, soft stigma, and perception. So I'm coming to the discussion. So psychological elements, for example, PWDs are struggling psychologically, not only to face the community with their disabilities, but also to build their inner strength. Okay, and internal control is crucial. So a lot of initiative initiated by the government to push, to encourage PWDs to take up on business opportunity, entrepreneurial project, and so on, but failing to understand what's actually is going on inside them could actually dampen the opportunity. And for your information, I think about 40 to 60% of PWDs are suffering depression. Okay, so psychological elements are very important for them to be entrepreneurs. Some of them, they manage to get a project, but we might be thinking that it's easy to do business. For example, you can actually set up your business store in the night market. But in Malaysia, the facilities to help disabled is very limited. For example, in terms of the accessible, the park, the toilet, and so on. So mentoring is very important. It's not only one-time mentoring. They have to have mentor from time to time, because along the way they might fall into a trap of psychological trap. And the next part is on sociological issues. Negative attitude to disabilities disempower individuals with disabilities and lead to their social exclusion and isolation. They do not want to mix around. And finally, next, society will still negatively perceive PWDs, and they are having issues actually for networking to address social prejudice. So in the conclusion, the aim of this study actually to investigate the factors of entrepreneurship model that suit for PWDs. So this critical reflection highlighted the psychological and sociological inclusive entrepreneurship model for PWDs. What are the important points that I would like to highlight? Healthy social support is very important. More policies and to emphasize for PWDs. The government just announced last year they are going to give extra incentive for those people who employ PWDs. And why actually government highlight on that? Because there's issue in the industry. People do not want to hire them. And if they were to be given certain project, people still have certain social discrimination, people still look down on them. So inclusive entrepreneurship can only take place with the support of society, especially stakeholders. So if we were to conduct any program for PWDs, they need to be given special treatment. We cannot deny, you cannot equalize them to other people. For example, if they were to apply for certain tender, you cannot expect them to have numbers of employees, to have a big amount of money in account, or even have a proper officers, because they are limited in terms of that. So limitation of this study, our respondents are PWDs and most of them are physical disability. So out of all disabilities who had impact speech or impact hearing or even blind, these PWDs abilities, those who have physical abilities, they actually have more opportunities compared to others. And the focus group actually covered only a few areas of interest because too many participants at one time. Because when we conducted that program, we actually targeted only to have it only for 1 hour. But for them to have this opportunity that they can actually express their emotion and so on, it become a little bit chaotic because everybody wanted to tell their experience, their most of it, their negative experience. So for future research, we hope that more research actually focusing on PWDs to explore in-depth psychological and sociological issues among PWDs of different disabilities. I've met one of these person with disabilities who's blind. He said, tell me what kind of business I can do. Okay, so finally, I hope that the next step for this research is to conduct quantitative survey to generalize the issues relating to PWDs communities. So this is a current movement in Malaysia. Make the right real in Malaysia. OKU rights matters. So we hope that more attention be given to these PWDs to help them to be independent, to help them to get out, to liberate them from poorness. So finally, thank you very much for your attention. So I really are passionate in this type of research because we would like actually for everybody to be treated equally. So because the issues is nobody left behind. You do not walk alone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that very exciting and wonderful presentation focusing on marginalized group and asking for support and acceptance by the society to enable them to overcome the difficulties that they have faced in their lives. Thank you also for finishing your presentation on time. Now, you highlighted the one important thing, which is support, and you kept saying support, social support and psychological support and recognition from the society. The very fact that the people with disabilities have mentioned this over and over again seems to suggest that there is no support. Is that the reality in the Malaysian context, or is there, I mean, to begin with, support has to come from the family itself, isn't it? They have, like you said, they are not born with the disability. They have met with accidents and eventually become disabled. So I would imagine the first support has to come from the family itself, and then from the surrounding neighborhood and relatives and friends and so on and so forth. And then it extends to the government, because the government is remote and distant from this. In your opinion, where is the support actually lacking?
Thank you, Prof, for the questions. I totally agree with you in terms of the family support. Most of these PWDs, they do not have any issues relating to family support in terms of psychology. But wherever they wanted actually to earn their own income, they have to go out to the society. So, and when we talk about stakeholders, we are not talking about the families, we are talking about the society. Who's the society? It would be the government, the agencies, the industry. Okay, so all these things need actually to be addressed accordingly. So, for example, if they were actually to take part in any initiative for the government, that the government open up this tender, for example, for everybody. They cannot compete with able people, so we need actually to give them some I would say some privilege accordingly, that some of them, because all these PWDs that I met, they are educated, but the only thing they need a little bit extra support, and we cannot deny that if we are able people, we be able actually to do so many things, but not these people. And what I mentioned about psychological, even though they have their family to support them, but whenever they go outside, they receive this kind of negative treatment from time to time. It's definitely affect their psychological mental health.
Very much. I just want to extend that question a little bit further. If I spotted it right during your presentation, you also mentioned that the government does have programs to train the PWDs in business development and so on. But you reported that the participation of the PWDs in this program was relatively low. Why would you think that if they are, as you rightly said, they need support, and the government does have programs to initiate them into businesses and other means to generate income, and not a lot of people seem to be participating in this program? Is that right? And if that is the case, what is the reason?
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof, for asking that question. The point is, in Malaysia, because I'm referring to the case study that I carried out, the government provide a training. They provide a financial incentive. That's it. So they expect that the PWDs, you have this training. We expect that you know how to run business. Then we give you money for you actually to look up for your own place to do business, your own raw material and so on. But the problem is, in Malaysia, not many places are accessible by these PWDs. So, for example, there could be a toilet or washroom, but that's not available for them. And also, I would like actually to highlight on this. Recently, there has been a trend. I think those mentioned they can reflect on this. PWDs find that it's much easier for them to sell tissues in restaurants. Okay, they walk around selling tissues, and they can, and wherever people see them, people feel empathy, sympathy. People pay, because Malaysians are very generous. To give them 5 ringgit, 10 ringgit, 20 ringgit is nothing. Okay, because they really want actually to contribute. But it made this PWDs refuse to be entrepreneur. So they rather go begging, some sort like I would say quote unquote begging, to go to restaurant to make money, because they can make between 400 to 500 ringgit a day. Okay, so just imagine 400 to 500 ringgit a day without using any effort. They even can hire somebody to be caretaker to hold their hand, and to even can hire a car to bring them places to places. these are the issues that everybody are questioning. Government is giving support. Why don't you take that opportunity? But we need actually to look further. So I have one of my respondents. He said that he was in his wheelchair waiting for somebody actually to pick him up, and he wanted to sell product. And most of the customer, they're going to be only first buyer because they feel sympathy, but they are not going to be regular customer. They're not going to be return customer because they do not see whatever product they produce. They do not have trust. Okay, even though these PWDs have all the effort, and we are looking at 2.4% is a good numbers rather than below than that. So now most of the agencies, most of the government departments are moving toward encouraging more and more PWDs to get into entrepreneurship. But the one that I wanted to highlight here, we should not only give them something that tangible, we need actually to address something that intangible. That sometimes we always thought that you become PWDs, you take the money, then do business. Do we know that how depressed they are? How low esteem they are having these kind of issues. I think that is the concern, that if we can highlight this kind of study to encourage people to understand more than that. Okay, that is why actually we are focusing on these issues.
Thank you very much. I would like to open the floor for discussion. If there is anybody in the audience or online who wants to raise the question, it's time for you to do that, please. Anyone in the audience? It's a very interesting topic, and the idea of helping the physically disabled is certainly a very urgent need in the society. Anyone has a question? Yes, please.
Situation whereby we have immigrants from, let's say, Rohingya also begging, yeah. So I see this as a competition with the PWD. And how do you see this? How do they sustain in order to survive and also to, in a way, compete, yeah, with the illegal and legal migrants from, as I said just now, Rohingya in other part of the world, yeah, who back in Malaysia.
So are you saying that how the PWDs are competing with these?
Competing has survived. So how they with the local, with the local, with the immigrants.
Immigrants, okay. This is totally another issues, but I'm more than happy actually to address the issues as well. I think being immigrants, okay, wherever you are, okay, wherever you are in foreign countries, your determination, your self-confidence, and your survival rate is definitely totally different than in your own country, okay, because you need to survive. And how actually these people survive, they have their own business model because they are supporting each other. And in fact, I'm into another research, transgender entrepreneurship. Okay, how actually they be able to support each other because they are very cohesive. They are all they support each other. That is the most important thing. But again, we have to look into the regulation, how actually the government is carrying out certain regulation to ensure that these people do not take over our opportunity. But I would not say that they are for 100% because we are a little bit complacent, because living our countries and we thought that everything quite smooth, and we are a little bit, I would say, taking things for granted. Okay, but while our PWDs, another setback because government are giving them support. So some of them, they do not need to actually to work really hard because they can get allowance from the social department. They also get allowance from zakat. They also get allowance for other NGOs and so on. That quite complacent as well because too much support. But what we want actually to look into, this type of support will not sustain. Okay, they need to be, they need actually to do something that can be sustainable, because there are some example at the PWDs that can be very successful. They be successful in their own industry. For example, I think Malaysians are very familiar with that. Speedmart 99 in Malaysia. Okay, the owner actually on his wheelchair. Okay, so this is some of the example the PWDs look at, and they were thinking that if that kind of person can be successful, so do I. Okay, but the only thing, when you are hanging out together with other PWDs that have low self-esteem, low self-confidence, it actually bring you down instead of bring you up. Okay, these are the issues that we try actually to highlight, that wherever we want to actually to conduct a training for PWDs, not only to impart the entrepreneurship skill, but also to impart motivation, okay, skills to help them actually to afloat for the long run. Thank you, Jamie, for the question.
Thank you very much.
A reasonable amount of time to discuss the issue. Of course, it's a very interesting topic, and thank you very much for focusing attention to this.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof.
Yes, we will move on to the next presenter. I believe we can go back to the old program that we have had, which has the first presenter listed as Nurulanis Ahmed, talking about the land fragmentation and socio-economic well-being. Can we have Nurulanis taking over, please?
Okay, thank you very much to the panel, Prof. Ranji. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good day to everyone here. Okay, I am Nurul Aziz Binti Ahmad Elias Mohammed from College of Youth Environment, Universiti Teknologi MARA, Perak branch. So I am a representative of my colleague, Dr. Nur Nazir Hashwani, and also Dr. Andrea Blake. So I would like to present on the research topic regarding land fragmentation and socio-economic well-being. Okay, let's move to the background of the study. So when we talk about land fragmentation, so it always referred as the main parcel of land that consists of a tiny and separate parcel. So this is according to J. Dorosh 2011, Beans 1950, and King and Burton 1982. So here means that the land has been fragmented into small size of plot. Okay, so therefore the land fragmentation is very important to be explored, because of right now the scenario of land fragmentation has been widespread into many countries over the world. For example, like China, Nigeria, and also the UK, as well as Malaysia. Okay. And this land fragmentation is very important to be explored also, because since the land fragmentation has been fragmented into small size of plot on the land, so it would cause the lower and it would affect the lower food productivity, as well as they would lead to increase of poverty issues, and they would impact on the agricultural land and also the agricultural production. And for the long term, it would affect in terms of the sustainability and quality of life of people and well-being as well. And in terms of condition of the land, so this land fragmentation will make it the land disorganized in terms of location as well as the space. Okay, therefore, because of this problem and effect, so we come up with the research aim basically to develop a conceptual model on the socio-economic well-being impacts of land fragmentation. So here we have been identified two research objectives. Research objective 1 is basically to investigate the land fragmentation causes, and research objective 2 is basically to analyze how the land fragmentation impacts the socio-economic well-being. Okay, for the literature review, in the socio-economic well-being context, so basically the very important stakeholder that we need to be explored in terms of landowner perspective, because the landowner plays a significant role by participate in terms of income generating and also unleash the potential environment of the land sources. So according to Vantage 2003 and also Demetrio D 2014, so there are 4 types of land fragmentation. For example, firstly is in terms of fragmentation of land ownership. So this fragmentation of land ownership, it oftenly referred to the number of land owners on a piece of land. Okay, when we have a title on the land, so we can see that on the title of the land they have a lot of multiple ownership on the land. And the secondly, in terms of types of land fragmentation, in terms of land use fragmentation, this is referred to the number of the users used on the land, including the tenant of the land. Okay, and for the internal fragmentation, it always referred to the features of the land. So basically, as we know that land fragmentation consists of small teeny of the land, so they will always affect in terms of shape of the land, the size, okay, and this is focused on the features of the land that we call is internal fragmentation. And fourthly, in terms of separation of ownership and use, so this is basically referred to the significant difference between fragmentation of land ownership and land use fragmentation. So in regards of the problem of land fragmentation is very unique. Okay, land fragmentation is very unique from one country to the another country basically, and therefore it really depends on the socio-economic background of the places. It also referred and rely on the political background of the place, and therefore it will be exhibit the unique features of the land fragmentation. So some of the places, they will perceive the land fragmentation as giving them a positive impact. Some of the country, they will receive the land fragmentation bring a negative impact. Okay. However, most of the environmentalists receive the land fragmentation as bring the negative impacts in terms of this land fragmentation would cause less effective on the land and make it increasing of production costs and also make it a decreasing of profitability and as well as the efficiency of land. So this has been agreed by Volodymyr Petro and others authors. Okay, and why this land make it inefficiency? So basically because of land fragmentation make it less productivity in terms of because of the small plot of the land. Okay, and the another problem that contribute from land fragmentation in terms of small parcel of land, and it will request additional land for providing walkways, roads, fences, and border building as well. And the third problem in terms of when we have a small plot on a piece of land, they will make it a difficulty for growing crops and also make it hinders for the profit. Okay, for the research methodology, the thematic analysis was used for this study. Okay, to conduct systematic research, so we are using the PRISMA method. So as we know, the PRISMA method is a framework used in a systematic literature review to make it or to ensure that the review make it more quality and rigorous. Okay, and this is the process. Okay, about using the PRISMA method using in a systematic literature review. For the firstly we need to formulate of the research question, and then we come up with this second stage, which is systematic searching strategy. So here in the searching strategy, we are having 3 stages. We need to do identification, screening, as well as the eligibility. And then after that, we have to go through with the appraising of the quality of the paper or articles. And then we need to do the data extraction as well as the analysis using the thematic analysis. So this is the stages that we are going through for using the PRISMA method. So for example, for record article that we have been received using a database corpus and also Web of Science. So the total number of articles basically about 1068. And then from here we have to check in terms of duplicating articles. So we identify about 3 number of articles, and we have screened, and we have again to screen the articles based on the inclusion and exclusion criterion. So we have screened and we can see the eligibility of article about 19. And from here we need to be accessed about the title and the abstract of the article. And also the quality of the paper. So the last final article that we use, about 6 articles that related to our study. Okay, this is about the findings of the study. So by using the thematic analysis, so we have been identified the 2 themes here, which is the causes of land fragmentation and the impact of land fragmentation, and then we identified both of causes and impact of land fragmentation about 17 sub-themes. Okay, from here, based on this table, so it was found that the coding of LO means land ownership, and the LA coding is land features. Okay, the land itself. For example, land tenure system. So the land ownership and land features has contributed the primary causes of land fragmentation. However, in terms of impacts of land fragmentations, in terms of social and economic well-being, so we can see here social well-being less severe impact compared to the economic well-being. So means here land fragmentation much more impact on in terms of the economic well-being compared to the social well-being. So this is about the discussion. Okay, so we can see here the causes of land fragmentation. So it was found that, as I mentioned to you earlier, that land ownership and the land matters much more contributed the primary cause of land fragmentation based on this study. However, it could be different from one place or another country. Okay, and for example, land ownership, especially for the purpose of inheritance. So we can see normally for the inheritance purpose. So we can see that land ownership, we have a lot of multiple ownership on a piece of land. So because of the multiple ownership of the land, they will contribute a small holding of the land according to the single owner of the land. So they will cause the land fragmentation to be happen. Okay, for the land tenure system such as customary land. So customary land normally it would reflect by social culture of the land, and it also reflect by the bond generation. So this also will lead to the land fragmentation to be happen. And the other causes that contribute the land fragmentation to be happen in terms of agricultural policy. For example, the government policy would always changes. They will also affect in terms of property system. And the food demand, if you keep growing the food demand also, they will also contribute the land fragmentation to be happen, because land fragmented to be a small size of the land to be cultivate the crops. And also the demographic profile of the places also will be contribute also the land fragmentation. Because it depends on the legal system of the places, the political, the socio-economic condition of the places, they will also affect and cause the land fragmentation to be happen. And some of the places, they would receive land fragmentation, make it as risk minimizing and self-employment, because a small size of the land we able to control very easy, okay, to cultivate any crops. And they will offer the self-employment to the landowner or the farmers. So this positive for the area, but it would cause the land fragmented to be happen. And in terms of impacts of land fragmentation in socio-economic well-being, so as I mentioned, economic well-being much more affected compared to the social well-being, because it always leads to the productivity, the efficiency of the land, so it will hinder the profit to be happen. However, in the social well-being also will be affected because of the small size of the land normally will lead to the social tension in terms of dispute between the neighbors, and sometimes make it refuse to get and difficult to get a land tax collection. And this is the conceptual model based on the analysis from the table. This is the conceptual model that we need to be developed in terms of the impact, socio-economic well-being impact of land fragmentation. So here we can see that the unproductive space is contribute the impact in the social well-being and economic well-being, the unproductive space. So this unproductive space would affect much more both aspects, okay, in terms of productivity as well as make it social tension problem. For the conclusion, so we can see that in terms of their causes of land fragmentation, so we have been identified. We have land ownership with primary cause of land fragmentation, land matters in terms of land tenure systems such as customary lands. We have the other causes contribute to land fragmentation such as agricultural policy, food demand, demographic profile, risk aversion or risk minimizing, and also self-employment. All of this is contribute the main, the primary cause of land fragmentation. And in terms of the impacts, economic well-being is much more affected compared to the social well-being. And basically, each country and region is treated as a separate case to assess land fragmentation and its consequences. So basically, different country, different place, they will be treated as a separate case of land fragmentation. So that's why we need to be further explore how the perceivedness of land fragmentation for that area. And more comprehensive review also we are really needed to be studied, and we have to extend the research by include a multi-dimension of data sources so that we can validate in terms of this issue of land fragmentation. And we believe that land fragmentation could benefit in terms of sustainable land practice, land management practice, and potential strategy to deal with the land fragmentation, basically particularly for the land authorities. Okay. Thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you very much, Nurlanis, for that interesting presentation on the issues of land fragmentation and its impact on social and economic well-being. I have a small question. I understood from the presentation that you based your methodology of generating data in terms of a bibliometric analysis, looking at published material, rather than actually dealing with the people who own land and so on. Is that right? Is that what you did, and you didn't really talk to the farmers and landowners and others?
Can you repeat, Prof. French?
Your methodology included only a bibliometric study of looking at published literature. Is that right?
Yeah, more on the systematic literature review.
Yeah, if that is the case, I was wondering if this literature has any geographic boundaries. Does it relate to any geographic areas? Because these conclusions appear to be far more generalized and doesn't seem to be very country-specific or any place-specific as such, isn't it?
Yeah, in terms of this study, it's make it much more general. Yeah, because we want to, because it's a systematic literature review, because this is the initial study to be conducted. Okay, and from here, we need to be much more focusing for that based on the geographical area, so that we can know much more detail about land fragmentation scenario for that places.
Yes. Another question that arises is about the use of the term well-being. I was not so convinced, really speaking, when you were saying land fragmentation can affect quality of life of the individuals who own land. Does it really affect them in terms of social well-being? I understand economic well-being could be really affected if you have a plot which is smaller and if it's fragmented and owned by so many people, therefore the income is divided and it will be seriously affecting the economics of it. But does it affect the social quality of life?
Of course, in terms of the life for that local people, especially if the land fragmentation occurs for the area, so they would affect as well in terms of the well-being for particularly for the social aspect, okay? Because in terms of perceivedness or in terms of relationship between the neighbors, among the neighbors, to be accepted, because we have to contribute once land fragmentation happens, so we have to take into consideration to provide the road and accessibility for that area. So in order to receive this provision, so among the neighbors, among the landowners need to be ready to be accepted, and they need to be happy among their owners. And however, normally for the Malaysians, I think much more conflict contributing of the conflict because in terms of
sorry to disturb you. I mean, you are sort of implying that when land is fragmented, the people who own these different pieces of lands will get into disputes. That is not necessarily given that they can inherit land. Parents will give their lands to the children and they will inherit bits and pieces of lands. It doesn't mean that they will get into fights and disputes and will affect social life. On the other hand, when you say that land fragmentation diminishes social quality, you are saying it's better for land to be owned by one person rather than 10 people, which is a very undemocratic thing, isn't it? There will be a lot of people who are landless and one person will own a huge parcel of land. That would be socially better, is it? Do you think so? If it is not fragmented, it will elevate the quality of life. Do you understand my argument?
Okay, in terms of this land fragmentation agreement, so that's why the perception of land fragmentation is quite different from based on the local people or the places. So, however, much more perceive the land fragmentation as it will bring the problems to that area.
Okay. All right, let us open the floor for discussion. If there is anybody in the audience or online who would want to raise a question from her or any of the participants of this research would raise a question from any of the authors of the research.
Okay, good afternoon, Prof. I'd like to ask one question. My question is, most of this land, nature of land title, sometimes, for example, it was meant for plantation, but suddenly it became a residential area, okay, without I'm not sure whether they do not inform the authority and so on. So what do you think about the unproductive use of the land, okay, because it's being fragmented? Does it has to be the community or it has to be the agency that need actually to help to mediate those dispute and actually to promote towards the productivity of the land?
Okay, thank you, Doctor, for the question. So I think for the land fragmentation here, we have the land authority to handle in terms of land management. However, for the urban planner or land, planner, town planner, so they are work or to act as to control the land use. So basically, we have two stakeholders that to play the role significantly for both of them. Okay, so that they are able to control in terms of land use and in terms of managing the land. So we need to be cooperate and compliance with the land management, land authority. So that become to help in terms of to have this problem to be mitigated. Okay,
Thank you very much. I wish we had more time to focus on each paper, but unfortunately we don't, and we have consumed very long time for this paper. So thank you very much for bringing our attention to the issues of land fragmentation and its impact on the society, both economic and social well-being. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next presenters. I think the next presenters would be Saimi Johanna Johan, Noor Intan Adha Hafid, and Clarashinta Kandi Noor Aini Farhana. I'm sorry, I may be not pronouncing the names properly, but they're going to talk to us about determinants of FELDA settlers, well-being and sustainability, mediating role of corporate responsibilities. FELDA settlers. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Saimi Johanna Johan. I'm from the IBM Pucalam. And today with me is Clara Cinta Changi from Indonesia. We will be presenting the title Determinants of FELDA Well-being and Sustainability, Dominating Role of Corporate Responsibility. So before I move on, let me explain what is FELDA. Okay. FELDA is Federal Land Development Authority. Is a Malaysian government agency that was founded to handle the resettlement of rural poor into newly developed areas and to organize smallholder farms growing cash crops. Okay, so in relation to Nurul Hani's presentations just now, and I quote, socio-economic well-being context, is the landowners play a significant role by participating in income generation and unleashing the potential vibrant land sources. Okay, so the purpose is to look at the FELDA settlement and their well-being, how they're going to sustain in the future. Actually, I have a video here, but it's linked to the YouTube. Somehow it's not connected now. Okay. So the purpose of this sustainability is actually to align with the sustainability goals by 2030. That is ending poverty in all forms, ensuring healthy living, and promoting well-being for all ages, and securing inclusive and equitable quality education, and promoting lifelong learning. Okay. So the current issues here in the FELDA, or the settlers, okay, in palm oil and also rubber plantations are actually four. Among the most sensitive issues, actually, the European Union's plan to terminate palm oil-based transport fuels by the 2030. So it's really at the edge. We are approaching 2030, so we have this issue of European Union terminating our palm oil. So the biggest producers of palm oil currently are Indonesia, the first one, and also Malaysia, second largest. And then the next one is the shortage of plantation foreign workers. Okay, this is apparently due to the pandemic COVID-19, and also the foreign workers or the local workers won't be enough or sufficient to work on the plantation industry. And the third one is the volatility of palm oil prices. Yeah, it seems like the anticipation of lower demand for the next 10 years due to alternative resources for renewable energy. Okay, and the fourth issues are the issue of the trust among the settlers toward the corporate role of FELDA. Okay, with the recent budget announced by the Prime Minister, if you notice and you listen carefully, the Prime Minister highlighted that, or the chairman of the FELDA authority highlighted that they won't settle these FELDA settlers' loan. There are a massive amount of loans unsettled, which accumulate to billions actually. So this considered a major uproar among the settlers in Malaysia. Okay, when you look at the this chart here, you can notice that the most FELDA settlers are in their golden years, approaching 50K. Okay, in this age, 61 to 70. So meaning that their third, second, and fourth generations are considered not interested to pursue the land or settlers of the plantation. Okay. And moving forward is another issue of the aging oil palm. Okay. If you look at this chart, you can notice that the aging oil palm from 2012, yeah, up to now, estimated 10 years, the aging oil palms are not really reducing. Yeah? They are still aging. Okay, and you can look at here the chart or the graph or numbers showing that from 2012, aging age approximately 16 years old, and until now it's 14 years old. Yeah, about within 10 years period of time, only reducing 2 years. Eh? Okay, so replanted areas. If you look at the replanted areas, also from 2012, yeah, up to 2021. So replanting of the oil palm is also another issue, actually, yeah, because you know why? It's costly to replant, and 35% of the oil palm plantations are owned by private entity. For example, IOI. Okay. Okay. All right. So this study is to explore the factors affecting Felda settlers' well-being towards sustainability and to identify whether the role of Felda or the corporate responsibility mediates Felda settlers' well-being and sustainability. And here are the conceptual framework where I use the dimensions of wellness and also corporate responsibility as the mediator and the dependent variable is the sustainability. Okay. And the study actually looks at the federal Mokil settlers. Felda's Mokil located in Segamat or Labis in Johor. Okay, so you look at the respondents, okay, approximately 204 settlers, majority are male, okay, and you look at this age, okay, 51 and above, which accumulate about 40%, okay, and the service length of they are servicing the settlement, actually more than 10 years, about 62%. And then their income per month, this is really important, whereby you can see that 55%, yeah, in the range of 3,500 to 5,500. Okay, and services provided, yeah, in this area of settlement, just basic necessities on education, computer, house renovation, death beneficiaries support, as well as welfare funds. Okay. And for this methodology, we use semi-structured interview and also to descriptive statistics using SPSS, as well as structure equation modeling PLS. Okay, and let's move on to my international co-author presenter, Plata Cinta Changgih, to present on the analysis and results. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Zaimi. Am I clear?
Yes, you are clear. Please go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So here I will describe about the analysis and result. The first one is on the measurement models. As we already know that for the structural equational modeling, the first step is we have to measure the models to make sure that the model is valid and also reliable, and also to examine the hypothesis developed. So here, we measure the loading factor and also the AVE, average variance extracted, and also composite reliability. Here, the loading factor, most of them are more than 0.5. It's also it also meet the requirements as mentioned by HARE, that the loading factor should be more than 0.5, as well as the average variance extracted and also the composite reliability. It also shows that most of them are more than, for the AVH, more than 0.5, and for the composite reliability is more than 0.7. It means that the data that we are analyzed is valid and also reliable. Next. Dr. Zemi, please. Sorry. Okay. Next is about the discriminant validity based on HTMC criterion. This discriminant validity shows that the respondent of this research understood this construct, this thing. Then, and it also emphasized that both of these validity tests shown that the measurement items are both valid and reliable. It means that the measurement items that we use in this context of research context is valid and also reliable. Next, Doctor. Okay, this one is for a structural model. Is we test the hypothesis. As mentioned before, there are 6 hypotheses that include the mediation hypothesis also. And to test the to testing the hypothesis, we look at the p-values and also the t-values of the result. And based on this result, as in table 5, it shows that among 6 hypotheses that we are tested, there are 3 hypotheses. There are 3 hypotheses that are supported, and the other 3 is not supported. The supported hypothesis is the first hypothesis that mentioned that corporate responsibility is mediated the relation between social well-being and also sustainability. The second hypothesis is about financial corporate responsibility is mediated relation between financial well-being and also sustainability. And the last one is intellectual. The corporate responsibility is mediating the intellectual well-being and sustainability. It means that corporate responsibility appear as the mediating variables, and also the corporate responsibility has an impact or affected the sustainability based on the statistical result. It shows that the hypothesis testing for hypothesis 6 is acceptable. Next, or supported. Thus, from the statistical analysis that mentioned before, it shows that the PLS or smart PLS that we use predict the Q2 of is moderate for the corporate responsibility and weak for sustainability degree of predictive power, respectively. As for the supported hypothesis, as previously mentioned, basically corporate responsibility mediating the relationship between social well-being, financial well-being to sustainability. And corporate responsibility has direct impact toward sustainability. However, as for the corporate responsibility mediating effect on the relationship between environmental towards sustainability, physical well-being towards sustainability, and intellectual well-being towards sustainability is not supported. Besides, the stronger predictor of corporate responsibility is CR, and then financial well-being as well as social well-being. Means that corporate responsibility is the strongest predictor in this study. As for the FELDA itself, for the business model, it seems that self-reliant settler sustainable FELDA fostering the shelter, financial well-being to improve sustainability. And also, we impose the corporate on FELDA in this occasion should enhance the role to enhance the industry attractiveness, including providing fairer, rewarding, and more competitive employment and remuneration package to attract younger generation.
Thank you, Clara. Thank you. That's all for our presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for that presentation dealing with the corporate responsibility in this FELDA community and its impact on sustainability. I would like to ask the one question about the idea of corporate responsibility in terms of sustainability. My understanding is that FELDA is a government institution. And it's not necessarily a profit-making enterprise. Is that the case?
Yes, it is a government institution looking after the settlements of the rural settlers.
Right. So what you are saying is that the government has a responsibility towards the settlers in terms of the generation of the income and social well-being, which would eventually contribute to the sustainability of the community itself. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Right. So the FELDA settlements are meaningful and productive transformations of land right now, or are they failing?
Can you repeat the question again, Mr.
The
Chair?
FELDA settlements that you did not really show us the FELDA settlements. There was only one image of one FELDA settlement right at the beginning. Are there many FELDA settlements that we are talking about?
Yeah, there are many FELDA settlements in Peninsular Malaysia. Yeah.
Like how many are we talking about?
It is too many, but I can't give you the exact figures. But I believe every state, yeah, have the settlements.
When you did the research, how many FELDA settlements did you actually?
I only go to the one with the problem of aging settlers, which
right.
And because
So
there are many settlers, so this area was chosen because of the aging population and lack of facilities and also development in terms of support from.
Yeah. So if you say you've chosen only a settlement with aging population, this is not representative of all the FELDA settlements in the peninsula.
It's not representative, but based on the facts and figures that I've shown, some other settlers also facing the same problems, especially with the current economic conditions right now, and also right after the COVID-19. The impact is very severe, actually.
So, yeah.
And also because of the volatility of the palm oil price and affected by the European market that decided to terminate the production of palm oil.
Sure. That is a bigger issue than aging, isn't it? Because, I mean, aging is, you put it as an issue, but aging is unstoppable. Is it possible to...
Why I put the issue of aging is because the continuity of the generation, to pursue the land and the settlements and others, the plantations of palm oil. There's no continuity actually because of the newer generations. They like to migrate to the town and big cities.
Sure, this is a common issue.
And because of that also, and the plantation lands actually is on the long-term loan, yeah. So the first generation or the second generation weren't able, many of them weren't able to complete all their loan payment. So they are hoping for their next generation or their children to carry on to make the loan payment. Unfortunately, it didn't work out actually. Yeah.
So this is unlikely to happen, and these settlements will get into big serious problems with this migration plus lack of young people to get involved in the cultivation. Yeah, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you.
Yeah. I would like to open the floor for discussion if anybody has any questions now. Anyone has a question about the corporate responsibility of these FELDA settlers?
Yes, I have two questions actually. Okay, so the first question is, how do you explain on the not supported hypothesis? Why actually it's not supported? What are the hidden issues relating to this unsupported hypothesis? Number two, you mentioned in your business model team a self-reliant settler, but later on you mentioned in terms of maybe the caretaker or FELDA need actually to offer them a special package for remuneration and so on. I think these are some issues, and why? Because you mentioned self-reliance, and yet you are talking about that perhaps a government per se need actually to provide this special package for FELDA settlers, because we know that FELDA has been in the business for many years, and until today they are still lingered with a lot of financial issues and so on, and they cannot depend on the government to always save them from those kind of issues, because I think this is another problem faced by FELDA, even though they are passing the financial problem to their children, but they are passing as well all the other problems, okay, especially in terms of attitude. But I would like actually to hear your comment on that.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Rohana, for the questions. Let me explain on the unsupported hypothesis. Environment, physical and intellectual. Because of the settlers that I focus on is on the FELDA Mokil. So one of the reasons because they are not really well educated. The next reason is because of there's no concern on the physical fitness, and also on the environment, they don't see any environmental issue around their surroundings actually, because the settlers are staying quite far away from the city of Labis or the township of Batu Pahat. So that's I foresee because of these particular settlers in Mokil. They don't have that issue, but the strongest issue is actually on the corporate functionality of the FELDA, because they trust the authority so much. So when COVID hit them very bad, and that's why we got that three highly supported hypotheses. Okay, the second thing that I need to clarify is this. The business model is actually when the government decided to come out with a new business structure. So this self-reliant settler sustainable FELDA was introduced in 2019. So until today, I have not seen whether that's a workable solution set up by the government, because there's no outcome or study being conducted yet. And they never share any information on these self-reliant settlers. This new business model is actually what they produced on white paper way back in 2019, and now it's actually 2023. There's no outcome yet. So I just want to share that whether this is actually a workable solution for the settlers after what they have been gone through so many years. Okay, so I hope that clarifies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We do not have much time to continue to discuss. Thank you very much for that presentation and drawing attention to the FELDA communities and the dwindling attention to the oil-based productions. We will move on to the next presenters today, Nurul Shahida Fauzi and Siti Nadia, Muhammad Ali, and Huraisa Arshad and Khaira are going to talk to us about key elements of corporate real estate sustainable management for office buildings. Over to you.
And a very good afternoon. Okay. So today I'm representing my team members. Okay, we'll share with you a research entitled the key elements of corporate real estate sustainable management for office buildings. Okay, so alright, so this is the presentation outlined for today. Alright, so first of all, I will explain a little bit the main actors for this research. Okay, so this is the term that basically frequently used in this research. Okay, so for the first one is the corporate real estate. So what is the corporate real estate? So in a very simple words, it's actually a property or buildings that owned or leased by non-real estate companies. We call it as a corporate real estate. Okay, it also includes developers' properties. Individual properties are used for investment purposes and not for sale. Alright, and also includes the government agencies, especially for profit-oriented agencies. So that we call it as a corporate real estate. Alright, so what is green corporate real estate? So as I mentioned just now, corporate real estate is a property, is a buildings. So green corporate real estate is a green buildings. Alright, also known as the sustainable buildings that are assessed with sustainable assessment tools from rating systems, or sometimes also known as environmental friendly buildings. So in a very easy way to indicate that it is green corporate real estates is the green buildings, or is the buildings that have been certified with the green building certifications. Okay. So then you will gonna see other terms of corporate real estate sustainable management. Okay, so what is that? Okay, it is actually a management of green corporate real estate. Okay, we call it as a corporate real estate sustainable management. Alright. Okay, as we know, okay, green buildings contribute a lot of benefits. Okay, in terms of economically, okay, socials, and also environments. Okay, due to that situations, okay, nowadays we can see that most of the investors, developers are looking to develop green buildings because of that benefits. Okay, however, you need to bear in mind, okay, the benefit will not be received as maximum, optimum as that if the building are not well managed. Okay, even though it is a green building, but if it is not well managed, so the owners or the tenants or the will not receive the benefit as supposed to be received. Okay, so that the green building should be well managed. However, you need to remember, it is not easy to manage green building because it is very complex to manage, because the green building itself normally it is installed with a lot of systems, whereby the system is to help to facilitate the management, to controls or to monitors the building's operations. So it's quite difficult to manage compared to conventional buildings. Okay, so let's also discussions, okay, towards the green buildings. What is the elements that should be taken care of, what's the element should be embedded in the building or should be looked on in the building to well manage the buildings. There's less discussions, especially in Malaysia, and also when we look at on the office buildings. Okay, so due to that situation, come to mind, what are the key elements to effectively managing this green office building in order to ensure the building can perform well and at the same time can contribute to a positive financial and non-financial return to the companies, because it is owned by the business. Okay. Alright, so looking at the literature review, okay, this is the previous research related to corporate real estate sustainable management. Okay, so we have found a study by Cadi et al. 2014. Okay, they already identified 20 elements of sustainable corporate real estate management through document analysis in Finland. But it involved a variety types of the property. Same goes to United Nations Environment Programme. It also involved varieties of properties. Okay, for CK 2015, found 8 elements of crescents, okay, in Netherlands through interview. Okay, so this one, they found several elements, main elements, which is social, environmental, and economical. Okay, a study by Fauzi et al. 2016 identified 40 elements through their literature review research. And then on the year 2018, okay, from the interview through 5 participants, they have found 6 elements. But looking at this, it's still a small numbers of participants involved in the interview sessions. So this study actually expanding this research with more numbers of participants involved, which is 30 participants involved for this research. Okay. So why I mentioned office building just now? Okay, because when we look at the Green Building Index, okay, I mentioned here Green Building Index Malaysia GBI because of this study. I focus look into green buildings. So because of this study in Malaysia, so I decided to choose Green Buildings Index Certification buildings as a study focus because it's more related to Malaysian weathers, Malaysian cultures, and it's more close to the Malaysians. Alright, so looking at that, the numbers, this is the numbers of the database of the Green Building Index. So non-residential buildings, green buildings shows the highest numbers, which is 53%. Okay, so looking at the category of non-residential green buildings, okay, office buildings shows the highest numbers, which is 58%. That's why we focus on office buildings. So we assume that it's an urgency to look into this first compared to others because the numbers is higher compared to others categories. Okay, so the research objective is to investigate the key elements of corporate real estate sustainable management to facilitate corporate real estate managers in efficiently managing and enhancing the existing management of their office buildings. So the aim of the research is actually to come out what is the key elements of corporate real estate sustainable management for office buildings. So in order to achieve this objective and aims, okay, the qualitative approach was adopted whereby 13 expert participants was chosen through the data was collected through semi-structured interview, okay, and purposive sampling was adopted. The 13 expert participants comes from corporate real estate managers, real estate experts, and also GBI facilitators. Okay, and the interview session was recorded and transcribed, and then the data was analyzed through thematic content analysis. Alright, so this is the themes that have been developed. Okay, so at the early stage, okay, we referred to Fauzi et al. 2018, whereby Fauzi had found 6 crescent elements. Okay, so we adopt that as our themes. Okay, and however, during the analysis, we found that we need to have some modifications on several elements, and then the elements have been expanded and added some of the elements, okay, to become 9 elements of corporate real estate sustainable management. Okay, the first one we have, the first thing is energy management. Energy management discuss about energy saving strategy. Water management, talking about water saving strategy. Indoor green management towards more indoor environmentals or indoor green strategies. Okay, and then we have innovation management on innovation strategy to manage the buildings. Okay, waste. Then we have a new element which is waste management, workspace management, which is more towards internal space organization strategy for the buildings. Okay, then we have workplace management, more towards overall localization strategy. Okay, and then we have organization management, okay, organization structure strategy. Okay, and the last one is human satisfaction management. Okay, so this one is more towards how to satisfy occupants, employees, customer satisfaction strategy. Alright. Okay, so from the interview sessions, okay, and the analysis have been conducted, we have found 9 elements of corporate real estate sustainable management and 53 components. Alright, for examples, okay, when we look at the energy for energy management, okay, the components that need to be stressed out is to be looked on is energy saving appliances. Okay, because we know that energy appliances are able to reduce the energy consumption. Same goes to energy saving fittings, automated systems, zoning systems, control usage, transparency, renewable energy. And for water management, we have water saving fittings, water system control, water leak control, rainwater harvesting, and green water management. Okay, for waste management, we have waste plans, recycle, e-waste, waste sellings, for innovations, innovation in new system, innovation for building services, new application, innovation service, innovation in design. Okay, for workspace management, we have optimum use, okay, sustainable space design, accessible space, flexible space, encourage interactions, open space, and follow standards. Okay, so for workplace management, we also have location, facilities, and so on. And organization management, more towards organization structure. So the person who manage the property should be adequate, should be experienced, okay, should involve the top management. For internal green management, should look on the air quality control, light and glare control, because in Malaysia we normally have a problem with glare, humidity controls, noise control, view ecosystem control, landscape irrigations, supplier assessments, and the last one is human satisfaction management. Okay, it includes of CSR, corporate social responsibility. Okay, pleasant environments, privacy aspect, because of Malaysian peoples are really concerned on the privacy aspects, safety and security. Okay, comfortability, complaint systems, because our Malaysian people like to complain. Okay, alright, so that's the things. Okay, this is on the left side is the components. Okay, and the middle one is the elements of corporate estate sustainable management. So in conclusions from the interview session that have been conducted, we able to identify 9 elements of criticisms and also 53 components that should be taken into consideration in managing green office buildings. This is the key elements to well manage the green buildings, in order to make sure that green buildings, the green office building can be well managed, and also at the same time can contribute a positive impact financially or non-financially to the companies or corporations or business. Alright, so as for the recommendations for this study to be conducted quantitatively or qualitatively, to identify the important level for each of the elements, because we already found the elements, so which element is much more important that should be stressed out or should be looked to well manage the buildings, and to identify which elements significantly affect business performance, because of when we talk about corporate real estate, it directly related to the business. Okay, so when this can be disclosed, okay, or when this can be found, alright, so maybe we can encourage more investors to involve in the green office building development or to invest in the green building development in the future. Alright, so that's all from me. Thank you.
The fact that energy, our green business actually need to have different strategies for real estate management and seems to be more popular than usual. I have a question with regard to your slide number. I cannot remember the number. Slide which talks about the themes before and after. It seems the one that you presented, yeah, this one.
Yes.
There are white and blue and purple circles, and I wasn't sure exactly what it means, but I assume the whites mean that they didn't exist before, and the purple means that they are coming to be now. Is that right?
The white, yes, the white one is the.
They didn't exist. They didn't exist. Waste management didn't exist. I mean, what are we saying here? Because there are two white circles in the after, which is material and resources and innovative management, and in the before, you have waste management white.
Okay, so this is actually how. Okay, sorry, bro. Okay, so this is actually how we develop a teams. Okay. Teams for to identify the corporate real estate sustainable management elements. At the first stage, we refer to Fauzi et al. 2018, whereby they found 6 elements, which is energy management, water management, indoor management, until innovation management. So we base on them, okay, in order to team up our to guide our research. Okay, but then after that, during the analysis, we found that several elements such as site planning management and material resources, there are several elements that need to be added, and that particular site planning management and material resources we incorporated in workspace management and workplace management.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
They are not removed. They are integrated into other aspects.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
But how did this waste management become white in the previous below the line? Because waste management we should have it there from the beginning, and it continues to exist.
Okay, because at the first stage, because we refer to the Fauzi et al. 2018. Okay, they do not find any waste management elements that required to be focused in order to well manage the green buildings. So, but then when we conduct the interview session, waste management actually is one of the elements should be taking serious issues, because yes, when we operate the office, of course we have a lot of waste. For example, the papers waste. Okay, so that particular waste actually can be recycled or can be sold to generate money. So this is actually one of the contribution to the business income as well. Okay, so that we add up the waste management element as one of the key elements also to well manage the green office buildings.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I have no further question. Let me open the door for discussion. If there is anyone in the audience who wants to raise any question about the green building, over to the audience, please. Anyone there? Yes, hand is now. Please.
We got one. Okay, Assalamualaikum. I'd just like to ask whether your team, I mean, you consider, because building is very, so many typologies, yes, right? But you never specify whether what kind of typologies, and then for example, each of the building, there's a limit or not? Because the outcome, the result be different. For example, in terms of technologies used, right? So do you pre-select a certain typologies, certain usage of it, or the age, or technology, for example. So, of course, maybe that is you identify the element, but then maybe the outcome, if you're talking about whether a successful approach or something like that, maybe it's not being accurate enough. So I'm not sure whether you take that into consideration, or maybe it's just without that categorized category as a state of the art building or the age group. Especially I'm talking about the age, because the outcome will be very similar or different. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Prof, for the very good questions. Okay, so for this research, for this study, we chose green office buildings. Okay, so green office building, we do not have a lot green office building in Malaysia. So we try to cater for all green buildings. Okay. But we not go for the green buildings. Okay, so the person that I chose for the participants is the person who manage the green buildings. Maybe he managed 2 or 3 green buildings. So based on that, because this is to get earlier view, initial view. Okay, so what is the key elements? So after this, then we will go buildings by buildings. By extracting all the elements, then we will look on which element which is important, looking at the building per se. So after this, maybe we can differentiate between year of the building operations, or maybe looking at the features or the systems installed and others. Okay, so this is the initial stage, is to find out as much as possible the key elements before we go to the fields and look on the buildings specific. Alright.
And maybe later on you can rank which one is very
yes. Okay, looking at the types of the building itself, right? Okay, looking in terms of sizes of the building itself and whatsoever.
Yeah, because of the building is open planning, maybe less problem normally because of.
Yes, because most of the green office building is a new building also, in Malaysia especially, right?
So maybe you got to highlight, I mean, the limit lah.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you, Prof, for the recommendations. All right.
Thank you very much. I think we will move on to the next presenter. We have spent quite enough time to discuss this issue. Thank you very much for the presentation about the key elements of real estate for sustainable management of office buildings.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much. I have international collaborators with me. Associate Prof. Dr. Muhammad Arif Kamal. He might want to start the presentation first. Dr. Muhammad Arif, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Can you start first?
Okay. So
All right,
I'm one
thanks.
of the international collaborator. So this is not my main area of research, but still, I would like to have a brief conversation on online purchase environment using blockchain-based solution. Which is like today's trend for online grocery and other shopping trends. Okay, so what is this blockchain technology? Basically, it is a transaction ledger spread over a peer network, and each block containing transaction data and the previous block's cryptographic hash. The online grocery market has been growing steadily and accounted for 1.1 billion yearly, representing 2.8% of the online shopping market compared to only 1.8% in 2012. Since the low awareness of blockchain leads to high potential of cybercrime affecting money transaction and personal details leakages. So in this, I would like to introduce the process of gaining and maintaining customer trust has grown more complex as e-commerce goes inescapably online. And nowadays, consumers now expect complete transparency and security on what they buy. So they want total transparency in their whole transactions. However, not all online payment options are secure and reliable for customers, particularly those who live in cities and engage with online grocery purchases daily. What are the main issues which are of basic concerns in this e-commerce and online grocery shopping? The current business can only gain their client trust if they provide answers to queries about how safe, accurate, and transparent in online purchase can be. According to previous studies, nearly half of the consumers who switch brands do so because they no longer trust the brands. And thirdly, the consumers want transparency on what they buy. So now I would like to switch over to Dr. Rohana to discuss more on literature review and the research findings.
All right, thank you so much. So as we say, the objective is to determine or examine the factors affecting adoption of blockchain system among the present e-commerce customer for online grocers. So actually this study is looking at what are the factors that will affect the user acceptance of blockchain in order for them to purchase the groceries that they are going to do it online. Right, so previous literature talked about blockchain as safe transaction ledgers, and this will reduce the potential of cybercrime and rampant online scams. So all these are the issues why we should actually change from a normal purchasing app to blockchain. But given a scenario of blockchain and also normal apps, still users are not understand what is blockchain. And if you don't understand the awareness of blockchain, how blockchain can create a safe transactions, especially when purchase is concerned, they won't use the blockchain. So lack of study focusing on security, visibility, and transaction online, that will affect the acceptance of blockchain because people don't understand what blockchain is, how safe blockchain is, right? So these are all the literature review talking about a few factors that will affect the user acceptance, because as a user, if let's say I want to purchase my groceries, of course I want accurate, I want authentic, because we are dealing with our money in the bank and we use the transactions, especially when we purchase through my bank to you, email, and all those things, you know. So we want our transaction to be safe. And with all the scammers coming in and getting all the leakage of information, I think this is a right time for us to change from a normal system into a blockchain. Right, so again, literature talk about all the factors, and here is the methodology. So this studies is actually doing a quantitative study where we interview a group of people who is actually having experience of doing online purchase of their groceries. So we select them and ask them questions on whether what are the things that will make them change from a normal apps into a blockchain, right? So therefore we use quantitative, and we actually go for 384 because this is actually what's suggested based on the population, all right? And then respondents selected from online shoppers, and study proceed with self-administered questionnaire. So meaning it's a target respondent. So it's not everybody can answer because let's say you stay in an urban area but you don't have the experience of purchasing online, so you cannot be the one who are going to be selected as a respondent. So these are some of the findings, shows that there are certain factors that affect the acceptance of blockchain among the present e-commerce online grocers in urban areas, because that is the first objective. So if you look at here, there are models that shows that how the independent factors are affecting the dependent factors. Right, so we can see here all are significance except or authenticity. So meaning to say in Malaysia urban area, when grocery is concerned, we know that when we order fish, we get a fish. We order a vegetable, we get a vegetable, especially when you do online Tesco process. Right, so there's not much of the problems with that. So therefore, the customers are telling that these factors are less important to them as compared to accuracy, cybersecurity, online payment method, where these are the factors that will really affect the usage of the blockchain. So the blockchain supplier, if they can feed in information, they can give great awareness on these three factors, I think it will give a change of user from a normal apps into a blockchain apps, right? So these are all the construct that we use to measure. So we did our regression analysis to look at which are the factors that regress the most. And we also did some simulation to look at what happened to the model if the user indicate as high dissatisfaction or high satisfaction on certain IV, right? This is to give a better idea on how to implement this model into a real world, right? So a discussion of this result shows that the theory are talking about blockchain as safe ledger, and in reality, people are still don't understand what blockchain is. So the coming factor or conclusion factors are looking at how the stakeholders can actually do the program that can enhance the knowledge of the users, right? Especially in transitions of using from a normal apps into a blockchain apps. So that as a conclusion, we know that there are three factors that will affect the influence of the blockchain is the accuracy, cybersecurity, online fundamentals. So these are the three critical areas that will allow the users to change from normal apps into a blockchain. Because they believe that if we can have these three factors, it is going to be a hack-free system. Okay, this is what users want. So as a recommendation, we focus on how we can deliver accurate information, deliver enhance a high cybersecurity in terms of the transactions, enhance the stable and safe transaction between all these parties. Right? So that is all. Thank you so much, Dr. Arif, for waiting for me. I know it's been a long time that you wait. Right? Thank you so much, Chair, for giving us the opportunity to present this paper. That is all for me.
Thank you very much.
I have one more paper. Yeah, I have one more paper to present.
You have one more paper to present now?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I read this paper actually earlier also. It's an interesting proposition about the new developments of transactions. As you have rightly pointed out, there are serious issues in terms of security. Cybercrime is rampant, and unless the traders can win the trust of the community, it's highly unlikely that the businesses will pick up. But it seems, as Arif was saying, the volume of transactions in the system is huge. So it seems that the issues of security and trustworthiness, the businesses seem to be growing in this sector, isn't it? How would you explain the fact that it is growing despite the fact there is a huge amount of cybercrime happening?
Right. When we have a COVID or pandemic coming in, we can see that is where the wave, right, of e-commerce platforms are growing huge. So this is where we can see there's a lot of even cargo movement, basic necessities are all being purchased through online because people are so scared to go out, and even to some extent you're not allowed to go out, right? So this is where the growth happens. So when this happens, at the same time we have scammers also being actively involved in the transaction and purchasing. So this issue has become very crucial, because if you don't tap on this, means it is going to be forever insecure, and we are not giving choice to our customer to decide which platform, because we don't have choice, right? So the only choice that we have is through purchasing using normal apps, which we know that there's going to be a lot of data leakage. I hope that answered the questions.
I see. To some extent, yes, I think, but COVID-19 restrictions have now almost disappeared in many places, and perhaps it cultivated the habit of going online purchasing, and that habit seems to remain. Despite the restrictions are not there, we are now tempted to order things online rather than walk around and go and buy in the traditional way. That might be one of the reasons why it still continues. But how can we actually make it entirely security proof? How can we get the scammers out of this business?
Okay, knowing the system of blockchain, it is when you create a blockchain, means it starts from one genesis. We call it as block, right? So once it is created, means we have to put all the data in, and the moment you have another new data coming in, the data will be linked using a chain. So let's say I'm a new supplier, I want to join your channel. my data should be verified by other user who are saying that you are genuinely being maybe you are the seller, or maybe you are selling whatever products. So whatever information that you feed us is actually the truth. Right. So it is as of now, it's very difficult to hack the blockchain, because every time we have new information coming in, the new information will be added to the block, and the number of keys will develop each time we have new members. So if you want to hack, means you have to hack from the beginning of the block, which you do not know where it started. So it makes the system more secure, because it's not like a normal computer where you just hack one computer and you can hack the whole system. So that is how blockchain works. So that makes the system a little bit of high security.
Reliable. Good. Thank you for that explanation.
Thank you so much.
So this is the thrust of your paper. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
The co-author.
Good
Tahira Bibi.
afternoon.
Tahira Bibi.
Hi.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon to you.
I am the co-author of Dr. Tahira and Dr. Rohana Sham.
Okay, thank you.
So I am currently I would like to introduce myself. So I am Miss Maricel Ko. I am currently connected in United Nations and a co-author of Dr. Rohana Sham and Dr. Tahira Bibi. So I am currently here in West Africa, Mali, West Africa.
Wow, congratulations for being there. Must be a nice place.
Thank you. Thank you, Doc. So today, I think Dr. Tahira and Dr. Sham is still somewhere in Morocco. So today I'm going to, if it is okay, so I'm just going to present our presentation online. Is that possible, Doc?
Yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay. Today I would like to say good afternoon from West Africa. And good afternoon also to Morocco, and good afternoon, Doc. So today we are going to present to you our topic about assertiveness behavior and organizational climate among workers in a multinational company. So my co-author is Dr. Tahira Bibi, TKM Tangal from UTM, and Dr. Rohana Sham from Asia Pacific University. So I am just going to give you a highlight regarding the assertiveness behavior. So assertiveness behavior is something like listening to the views of others and responding appropriately, whether in agreement with those views or not. So accepting responsibilities to delegate to others, regularly expressing appreciation of others for what they have done or are doing. So being able to admit to mistakes and apologize, maintaining self-control, and behaving as an equal to others. So the organizational climate is something like employees collecting appraisal of the organizational work environment, take and to control account many dimensions of the situation, as well as the psychological impact of the environment. So in our study, the influence of employee behavior on the organizational environment will have a comprehensive effect on the organizational climate. According to Altiboli et al. 2021, Patterson, War, and West 2004, whether the employee leads to positive or negative behavior, it would still impact the organizational climate. And also, however, Misra and Tikoria 2021 is stated that the organizational culture impacts the productivity of an organization through behavior that the organization itself created from organizational climate. AicE-Bs et al. 2021 also highlighted that the organizational climate allows positive economic effects such as increased commitments and cooperation of its members, job satisfaction, and preferably decision making. So our research objective is to identify, to explore, provide values contribution, and reinforce the study of the relationship between assertiveness behavior, dimensions, and organizational climate. So the organizational climate makes a critical link between the organization's leaders and organization itself. Organizational climate serves as a measure of individual perception or feelings about the organization. The organizational climate is reflected in the organization's objective to develop its staff or employees by providing them good working environment and condition and assisting and supporting them so they can achieve job satisfaction. All of this enhance commitment among the staff toward organization. So here on our literature review, you can see that assertiveness behavior is defined by Antonia et al. 2021, an honest, legitimate expression of one's personal opinion, needs, wants, and feelings without denying or violating the rights. It's also on the assertiveness theory. So its shared values, beliefs, and habits in an organization system are related to a formal structure to produce norms and behavior. Regarding the organizational theory, climate theory, so there is a productivity, competitive, advantage, merger, and leadership direction. So here on our research methodology, so there is we have investigate. The tool one will have investigate. We have tool two, quantitative. It is a quantitative approach based on Lim et al. 2022. And we use the questionnaire based on Ratus 1973 and Tyler Bowers 1972. And then we have 57 respondents on our research. And the result is embarking of skills on the professional and creating communicative culture. So on our demographic profile of respondents, if you can see here, so we have 50.9 for the female and then 28% for the male. And the age of the employee and percentage by age, you can see here that the 21 to 30 is 49%, and then 31 to 40 is 47%. And based on the 41 to 50 years old is based, we have 2%. And then we have a minimum of 0 to 2 years of experience as an MNC workers. The years of experience, number of employees, and percentage by years of experience is, you can see here on the years of experience, 6 to 10 is gonna be 23%, and then 3 to 5 years is gonna be 13%, and then 11 years is gonna be 11%, and also the 0 to 2 is 10%. Then here on the findings, you can see the classification and the table 1 based on the mean scores. So the level is low on 1.0 to 2.33, and then we have moderate 2.34 to 3.67, and high 3.68 to 5.0 on the table classification 1. On the table 2, mini-score analysis for organizational climate and assertiveness behavior. So we have a variables here. The organizational climate is 3.70, equivalent to high. And assertiveness behavior, which is mean score of 3.23, the level is moderate. On the table 3, result of correlation, we have assertiveness dimensions. On the right to respect and to be respected is moderate. The level is moderate. The right to feel and have feelings is also moderate. The right to make mistakes is also moderate. The right to say no is also moderate. The right to question and communicate is also moderate. So this is the correlation of the significance at the 0.01 level. So here on the discussion, so we have the organizational behavior has formed values and togetherness collectively to form a balanced behavior. A harmonious organization has proven that consensus achieving organizational goals could be implemented successfully if culture application is balanced. Then you can see here also, if you can express their feelings, it means that it seeks to promote the ability to make a holistic link to oneself and one's emotion it expressed to them. So we have also belief without insulting and belittling other individuals. Finding solution in voice discontent without belittling them else or others when challenges arise. A person can have high self-esteem and hold it confidently. And also in the ideas considered to be an essential and defining feature of human being. So in our conclusion, so we have also here the organizational productivity and significantly impacts the support, effort, and then work quality and organizational formalization. So this is actually the on our conclusion. So we have to be right to be respected, and we also have right to feel and express feelings. So we also have our also conclusion find that the right to ask question, and then you have the right to make mistakes. So we have understand, investigations, design, and leadership, viability of assertive behavior. So to give you a highlight to what is assertiveness and recommendation for good practices, let us watch this. Okay, thank you very much.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon in Morocco, in Marrakech, and everywhere
you guys are actually in country. Okay, so my name is Tahira BBT Camp Tanggal. I'm representing my group, and actually Marisol already presented the part. Thank you very much, Marisol and Dr. Rohana. So this is a very interesting research. So should I conclude? Previously, if you can go back to the literature review, it says that three things inside this research. Assertiveness behavior, two things, assertiveness behavior and organizational climate. Okay, so being assertive is not easy in Asian countries. That's it. Okay, what makes this research very interesting is because this company is a multinational company in Malaysia and the workers are all Malaysia, but the organizational climate is very high, and the assertiveness behavior unfortunately is immoderate. So it's not aligned concurrently with what we thought it should be together with the research findings and everything. So what can I conclude? And I think it's parallel. Yes, doctor? Alright, okay. It's parallel what we are actually what actually we are surviving after post-pandemic. Okay, we are trying to conceive so much, but we don't want to let it out. Okay, so the employees, especially in Malaysian culture, trying not to speak out. Okay, and assertiveness is actually in the middle of aggressiveness and passive. You can detect actually which part of you. Sometimes you are being assertive, sometimes you are not. So in our environmental behavior of organization, okay, whether the environment leads you to understand the situation, alright, it will lead to the employee as well. As you can see today, we have a very good environment which leads to all of you waiting for us. You know, this is a part of assertiveness, okay? Because not everyone will do this. Not everyone in each organization will accept delay, okay? Not everyone can go to the far that I can accept whether what kind of consequences that you're having challenges. No, sometimes the bosses are not like that. Okay, and when it happens, when the employees comes to the part of having problems to speak out, the management should see, and it comes with the leadership. And at the end of the day, if you are in one organization, if you are in one family, if you are in your own way to build up your own career, you must make sure that you have the support, you have the effort to make sure that you give the impact, and it will lead to a very good organizational climate. With that, I thank you everyone, and with the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for waiting for us, and will lead to a very good assertiveness communication in our life. Okay, Assalamualaikum, and thank you very much.
Finally, we have
TM
Amy and Abdullahi and Rohana talking about the effects of Indo-environmental quality on urban housing on residents' health and well-being in Nigeria. It's an interesting topic. Obviously, environment does have major implications for the well-being of people, which is the foundation of environment behavior movement in the first place. So let us figure out how urban housing environments, the quality of those environments are affecting health and well-being of the residents in the Nigerian context. Oluwafemi, are you going to start?
Prof, I'm going to start first, followed by
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Please go ahead.
Olu, are you there? Just to check, Oluwafemi, are you there?
He was
Can you hear me?
around. He was around. He was waiting all this time.
Yeah, he was here. Are you physically?
Oh, no.
Oh, online, right? Okay. So maybe you can just try to contact him.
He's in the waiting room now. Joining in a second. Look, it might be his connection.
Thank you, Prof.
Yes, please. Please start. We are all waiting to hear you.
Okay, I'll just start first while waiting for him. This paper are talking about effects of indoor environmental quality. Sorry. Urban housing on resident health and well-being in Nigeria.
He's here now.
Okay, great. All right, as an introduction, we look at the urbanization as a major global trends in urban area where we have a big impact on people's health. So now we're talking about what is the quality of environment that you're going to have if you have a certain number of people in a certain space. And we talk about urban area where it is more, where we have a high density area and low density area. So there are 68% of the world population by 2050 will live in urban area, with 90% being developing countries in Africa. So we're talking about with a higher risk of low.
Olu, can you mute your mic, please? Okay,
right,
go ahead.
and currently we have more than 55% of people live in urban regions. So this make a thing is more critical in urban area. And we talk about crowded city with underdeveloped health system will evolve into breeding ground for new illness like COVID-19. So this is very true where we have distances, where we have people all compact in one places. So that will have a high what we call possibility of getting COVID because it is spread by the environment. And in many African cities, non-communicable diseases are exacerbated by overcrowding. So we're talking about the issue of overcrowd, high dense area, right, and substandard housing and poor indoor air quality that do not satisfy WH criteria. So in Nigeria, this is a case where the poorest socioeconomic classes make up to 51 to 51.2%. So meaning to say this 51.2%, they don't have choice, but to live and to face the poor environment that they are facing because of their socioeconomic status. So which is estimated to be 202 million people, which is at high risk. And million of the population experience disproportionate amount of negative health effects, substandard housing, including all this coming in because of the poor environment that they are facing. So therefore, one of among the objective and aims of this study is to first investigate the interaction between residential housing design and infectious disease risk. And second one, to identify the building factors that expose residents to infectious disease risk, and also to determine the association between some design factors and the indoor environment. So we're going to look at how the design can improve the quality or air quality among the urban residents. Lu, are you there? I pass over to you.
Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So by way of our literature review, we find a growing body of research that has demonstrated an association between infectious illness transmission and housing quality. We've also found that by Otto et al. In 2022 saw that there's a correlation between poorly ventilated buildings, which tend to have largest indoor microbial loads when compared to the optimal ventilation of such buildings that have lower indoor microbial loads. Furthermore, other elements that affect indoor air qualities that has been found in the literature include building type and location. We also have orientation, and some inadequate design and ventilation systems, according to Dawn 2013. So we see that the indoor environment from literature and the way the occupant emit and deposit particular microbial populations are influenced by architectural design, which informed the decision to take up this research to do more investigation. And next slide, please. The next slide. Okay, so I'm going to talk about our methodology. First of all, our study area was conducted in Nigeria and in northeastern zone in Nigeria called Bauchi. And on the screen, you will see the residential layout of a particular area that was chosen in Bauchi called Yewa Residential Neighborhood. We did some calculation to determine the number of respondents, which we have, which falls to about 400 people that we sampled and by survey using a structured questionnaire. The questionnaire has a lot of questions that has to do with building auditing, and measuring the environmental parameters in the building, and then how the people perceive their health risk while they live within the residential buildings. We also made use of digital camera to be able to take relevant pictures of some of the poor residential planning, so that we can be able to see what are the conditions that can trigger or that can necessitate some infectious diseases risks in the home. We also make use of Google Map, which you can see there, of the residential area. And then to collect the environmental parameters, this was made more objective by the use of air visual node. The air visual node monitors the indoor air quality and all other environmental parameters, such as the temperature in the room, the relative humidity, the PM 2.5, which is called the particulate matter. That is the dust matter dust particles that cannot be seen with the physical eyes. And then we also have another size, which is PM 10. That is a bit larger, but they cannot be seen with the visible eyes. And then the air node also measures the rate of the carbon dioxide within the residential buildings. And this is done in real time. And then this air node equipment were put in over 116 sampled houses out of the 400 houses. And then a measurement were taken for close to about 12 hours. It's when the people are right inside the building from evening time till the morning time. So we are able to collect environmental parameters to be able to correlate such with what the people experience within the building. Please, next slide, please. So that you can see our findings. Next slide. Now, so we use the evaluation metrics. The evaluation metrics that we use for the indoor contaminant was we use a US Environmental Protection Agency standard category that look at the air quality in the indoor. Then we also look at the standard against WHO, World Health Organization benchmark standard. And then we also look at then we also look at other benchmarks. And then if you can see from the screen, you see from 0 to 50, it means that is good. When you have 51 to 100, and that's moderate. When it is 101 to 150, then you are coming to unhealthy for sensitive groups. And then when it is 151 to 200, it's becoming more unhealthy to stay within the environment. And then when it is 201 to 300 and above 300, it becomes hazardous to live in such environment. You can see the table there shows the evaluation matrix that was used for the indoor air contaminant, which specified the particulate matter, that is PM 2.5 and PM 10, and the CO2. And then the figure on the right hand is just a figure to show the parts per million as measured by carbon dioxide. So when you have 650 parts per million within the residential building, it's still quite okay. It's healthy for people to live. If it gets to like 950 parts per million, is an acceptable level. But when it starts getting to over 1,250 parts per million, it's becoming temporarily acceptable. And you can see there that we use the traffic light indicator. So the green shows that it is acceptable. The yellow shows that something needs to be done. And then the red shows that, it's quite unhealthy and dangerous and hazardous for humans to live within such environment. Next slide, please, to show our findings. And now from our findings, we can see that the majority of the homes had elevated particulate concentration matter in the building. That means there are invisible dust, invisible particulate matter that carry certain microbial loads, which if taken to the laboratory, microbiologist laboratory, and then we begin to find out what are the bacteria and the fungi and other dangerous element that is present in those dust particles, then we'll find out that that will be the reason why people feel contact or feel unhealthy in the house or contact some certain diseases in the house. Then if you look at the range of mean, the average that we had for PM2.5, we had the range of mean for 63 for PM2.5 and 228 for PM10 concentration within the building. That shows that this is more than 5 times or 10 times of what is the acceptable standard by WHO and other international standard. And then when we compare that to what we have in the building, some of the building had as high as 231 for PM2.5 and 1,667 for PM10, which is absolutely unacceptable, absolutely unhealthy, absolutely hazardous for human health. Then we see that most households, they were exposed to levels that were over the WHO guideline, which ranges between 25 and 50 for the particulate matter. So you can see the gap in the difference between the acceptable standard, that is granted by WHO and what was measured within the building. Now, if you come to the ventilation aspect of it, we saw that the mean ventilation appears to be sufficient. But if we look at, if you look at the range that we measure in some of the buildings, the ventilation, the CO2, the presence of the ventilation is measured by the presence of the CO2, which is measured by parts per million. And then the average for all the 116 houses was 584. So which makes the ventilation there to appear as if they are sufficient. But if you look at the range that we got from the range 403 parts per million to 2,201 parts per million, you'll discover that there are quite a number of houses, that had elevated CO2 emissions within the building, which also shows that this can contribute or can trigger some infectious diseases when they are combined together with other multiple factors, in the building. Then the relative humidity was quite mild, which is 40.7%, which is within the range of acceptable guidelines. Then the temperature also was marginally above ASHRAE international standard that was recommended, which is between 21 to 26. But here we are still measuring 28.9 degrees. So it means that due to some certain building factors, the temperature was quite higher than human comfort within the building. Now let's go to the next slides for me to explain more of our findings. Next slides, please. Yes, so from our findings, you see the table here. The table is quite busy, but I'm going to try to summarize what is on the table. So we find that there is a strong correlation between the major building orientation and the occurrence of certain diseases such as measles, which has P is equal to 0.02, which means that is significant, and meningitis. Meningitis is connected to the dry season in Nigeria. When the season is dry and there is low ventilation or poor ventilation within the building, there's usually an outbreak of meningitis. So this confirms our finding. And then also tuberculosis. Tuberculosis also was found significant and was correlated to the building orientation. These are some of the building factors that we are talking about. Then the PM2.5, which is a particulate matter that is a bit milder and lighter than PM10, was adversely connected with the occurrence of majority of the diseases, but it favorably correlated with tuberculosis, meningitis, and chickenpox. Then PM10, which is a bit larger than PM2.5 in particulate matter, was adversely correlated with the occurrence of measles, asthma, and pneumonia. And then we'll see that when the people were answering the questionnaire, they tick some of these diseases, measles, asthma, meningitis, and tuberculosis, and all the like that they experience while they are within the building. So some illnesses occurrence were inversely connected to CO2 emission as well, while others were favorably correlated within the building. Next slide, please, because of my time. Next slide. So by way of conclusion, our studies show a connection between some specific building characteristics, which are mentioned in the red line there, the building orientation, the wall and the floor materials, the dwelling type, and the number of rooms within the building, and potential risk factors in residential housing for particular diseases such as meningitis, measles, chickenpox, and influenza. Now, the PMs, that is the particulate matters, they were linked to influenza and chickenpox at the same time within the building. So we need a larger scale study by way of our recommendation with a large sample size, that will be able to show us and the significance of many of these diseases as they correlate to the specific building characteristics. And then we also want to recommend that the use of intervention tactics, such as increase in ventilation provided by larger windows and probably integration of chimneys and smoke hoods to the kitchen, can bring down the poor indoor air quality dramatically and then improve the ventilation systems and the ventilation flow within the building. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Olu, for that presentation of demonstrating how indoor environmental quality does have implications, particularly health-related implications in the Nigerian residential environments. You went to great lengths to discover the kind of bacterial and infectious material that is present in the environments where you did the research, and then also to discover what kind of diseases are most likely to occur, which is nice. But I have a fundamental question. The question really is, or rather an observation, I would say, which is the fact that the basic premise of this presentation is that if your environment is infected with bacteria and viruses and potentially harmful material, and you live in such an environment, you will fall sick. That is the bottom line. But this is something that we all know, isn't it? So I'm just curious as to what is new about this idea, because I think almost everybody knows, it's common sense that if you live in an environment which is of poor air quality, has bacteria and viruses and junk and waste and all these kinds of stuff, you're going to fall sick. Whatever the diseases are, it could be chickenpox, influenza, meningitis, you call the names, but this bottom line of this paper is that, isn't it? It's a very obvious idea. What would you say to that?
Well, what is new about this research is that many researches that have been carried out had not really looked at, okay, what are the specific building characteristics that is associated to building design that could trigger some of these infectious diseases. Yes, we know that people live in poor indoor quality houses, but they have not really found out what is the solution to this problem from architectural points of view. There have been other areas that have been explored, but from architectural point of view, which has to do with design, building orientation, and then the type of material that is used, some of them which could trigger some of these infectious diseases or aggravate them. You see, there are two words there. They could be triggered by some of the specific building characteristics, or if they are not triggered by building characteristics, they could be aggravated by some of the poorly designed building factors. So these factors are the areas that are not being looked into extensively in literature. And that is why our research has gone beyond just taking some subjective measurement within the building. We now have to make use of scientific equipment to determine what is the indoor environmental parameters. And then we can see that visibly the particulate matter within the buildings cannot be seen, but they are there in large quantity. They are there in large quantity. So then, how can we solve this problem? Now, there are two ways to solve this problem architecturally, using architectural design. I call it one, the airflow and the air flush. There's a difference between airflow and air flush. If there is an air move, if there is no air movement, if there's still air in the building, it doesn't do much. But until when there is adequate ventilation that you can have air flush, as when you have what you call the cross ventilation, the air coming from one, the airflow coming from one window and is able to go out through the other window, it can flush the particulate matters. It can flush the used air, which comprise of CO2 within the building, and then it can flush it out. And then you can have that. If you have that continuously, then there will be a lesson. You will lessen the impact of some of these things that can trigger illnesses within the building. That is one factor. Then if you look at building orientation factor too, in Africa and in some places, building orientation is not really looked at. The orientation has to do with how do we harness and maximize the maximum airflow coming from coming from the direction, the windward direction. Most houses are just planted on the ground because people needed to live, they needed shelter. So most of the houses are poorly designed when it comes to building orientation. So you can have windows around the buildings, but those windows are not harnessing proper airflow. They are only good. They are only as good for lighting the building, for daylighting. After that, there is no proper airflow through that. So this is where building orientation aspect comes in. And then you also have some other building factors such as floor material and wall material and dwelling type. What were the building materials that were used? Time will not permit me. There's a lot of research that has been carried out on how building materials can influence building health of an occupant, especially the young and the vulnerable people, the young and the women. How building materials can, some building materials, when they are used within the building, they can trigger asthmatic conditions. So this has to do with application of building material. Unless the architect, the building designer knows this, and then be able to appropriate this and apply this appropriately in the design, we will continue to have this problem. And then our reaction will always be, these things occur in the home, in the houses, and they are normal. But there are some other underlying factors that needs to be addressed. And that is exactly what this research is addressing. I believe that it is innovative to look at this research more in details and in large case study. I hope that answers the question, sir.
Thank you. I beg to differ with you, unfortunately, because what you're saying is true to some extent, but your presentation previously did not really look at architectural characteristics as you now discuss. It did not look at orientation. It did not look at cross-ventilation. And what it was looking at is something entirely different. Now you are talking about architectural characteristics and orientation and ventilation and other aspects and how that would affect environmental health issues, which is true. But at the same time, these are things that we already know. We teach the architecture students in the studios to begin with. Cross ventilation is important. It is already known to the architects. The fact that buildings need to be oriented towards wind directions is already known to the architects. It's not really that kind of groundbreaking discovery, really speaking. Although I agree with you, these will be relevant and useful. But at the same time, it'll be very difficult to establish such a strong correlation between if your orientation is wrong, you will get malaria or meningitis. No, I don't think it will happen like that. They are caused by bacteria and viruses and not by orientation of buildings. Anyway, I would like to open the floor for discussion if there is anyone who has any questions. Anyone has a question?
No, Prof, you already arranged the thinking.
Yeah, you covered everything already.
So, Prof, they are giving feedback that you have covered everything.
Thank you very much. Okay. If there are no more questions and if there are no more presenters, I think I would take the liberty to conclude this session and thank everyone, including Olu and other presenters. I think the fact that we can agree on what the presenters have produced in terms of research outcomes, as well as that we can disagree with some of those things, are very healthy outcomes in conferences. So I would expect and encourage you to think about the ideas that were presented here in terms of land fragmentation, the sustainability and relationship to the corporate responsibility and the well-being of the settlers, and the security that is needed in the online purchasing and how the blockchain is changing the environment with us. And finally, the fact that there is a very strong relationship between unhealthy environmental conditions and health. Yes, those are all inspirational presentations, and thank you all the presenters for taking time and making the presentations so convincing and enlightening, as well as thank you for being around us, waiting to hear what others want to hear. And I think the last lesson that we will take today is that we need to be self-assertive, as Marisa put it to us. So I would think that we go home with a much stronger position to take our stand on issues that confront us. With that, I think I will conclude the session and pass it over to the organizers. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Prof. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Prof.
I guess that's me. Thank you very much, Professor Ranjit Ratne, sorry. Yeah, time to go.
Yep. See you again.
Have a good night.
You too, all of you. Enjoy the night.
And
have the trips. Enjoy Marrakech.
And might see you guys in Bangkok.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah.
See you again.
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah.
Well, at least you're here. Apparently, the leaders moved to some spot.
Okay. 7.
Yeah.
7 or 9?
7.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow for the kids, we start before having meetings.
So where will be the one?
No, it's just nothing. All right, make it simple. Be there. Dinner will be.
Have you switched off?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, hang on, let me just mute this.